All right, we're recording. Yeah, so I'll kind of repeat the question I just asked off the recording. Any thoughts on how this focus group is going so far? Any thoughts on what you want to what you are envisioning the final goal to look like? I think the method we're going will get us to where we originally discussed our end goal looking like, but I'm curious if what you've seen so far has changed that at all, or if we all still kind of think, yeah, the end goal that we originally talked about, what was that, 2 months ago, is still the one that we're kind of pushing towards.
Yeah, I don't think that's changed. I think the steps you've been taking is get validation on the foundation, if you will, and then there are a lot of things that can take place after that, as we talked about. So I think the end goals are still quite valid once we get the foundation of the areas themselves agreed to.
Awesome. Anybody else? Cool. I can tell you, remembering that all of .com customers, the silver and gold, or sorry, the premium and ultimate sauce customers, it'll take me a bit, with emergency service, emergency support running out, flowing out to them as of February 1st. I think what we're doing here is going to also be a good step to help get the team more coalesced so that everybody can kind of work each other's tickets, kind of stop that separation. I think it'll really help us out. So it's not, oh, look, Sauce has an emergency. It's a customer has an emergency, which I think is a good goal for us to get to at the very end of all of this.
I actually just kind of had a question around, like, in terms of implementation, whether you think we should kind of start working on that in parallel, like, even though I know we don't have the exact categories kind of set out yet, is there other work that we could do in parallel while that's happening? Or do you think we need to have the categories clearly defined before we do that?
At least in my opinion, I think we need the categories kind of set out, just because, like, the routing of Zendesk for that portion of it, we need, I mean, we could put in placeholders like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, but I think it'll get confusing really quickly if we don't have them named and know what they are. Especially, if we use like placeholders in there. Okay, maybe Jane thinks A is authentication, but I think it's GitLab features. It's going to confuse things as we try to do that. I think with like the sandbox, we can start kind of playing around with it a lot more, because it's a sandbox. It's not production. We're not really touching a bunch of metrics. So I think we can start kind of building out some of that in the sandbox, kind of start playing around with concepts, which, I mean, ideally is probably where we should be testing things out anyway, right? According to the processes I wrote a year ago. But yeah, so I think getting the categories will help a lot, but I think we can start playing around, even if it's something as simple as, right, A, B, C, and D. Let's just play around with what it looks like moving them between major categories and what that does to views and groups and all that stuff.
Is there something smaller we can do? Like, if we're confident about one set of problems and subtypes, like, I'm just trying to think of it, how we can iterate a little bit, where we can be like, this one looks good, ship this one.
Well, we know for sure that issues with GitLab purchasing and billing, which is like CI minutes licensing subscriptions, so like L&R and CI minute issue tickets, is one category where, like, yeah, that's pretty well defined. We know sauce account, which is its own view and its own form, is its own category, and we know that free customer problems are its own form or its own category. We're pretty sure of, like, yeah, those are definitively what they are, because they're very defined in Zendesk as it is in our workflow. So I think we could make the categories kind of with, okay, here's the three we're sure of, and then call them, have a fourth one for other. And it's like, right, so everything should go in other right now. And we can, so I think, like, in production, what we can do is basically set up views specifically around those three, and start adding some people to like basically use that area of focus placeholder view we have and start putting some people into a group for issues with billing, issues with sauce account, issues with free customer, and start just kind of making sure, okay, does it being in this view help? Because I mean, I could see like the sauce account one is like, right, by having that set up, we can basically kill an entire view because we don't need the sauce account view if we have an area of focus view covering that. So I do think at least with the 3 we know for sure, we could kind of start setting that up. And I think we could just kind of, for lack of better terms, iterate on that as we continue to go with it. If that's a direction y'all think you want to go, or if you think we should keep everything isolated to sandbox till we've got all our categories. I guess it's a matter of iterative approach, or do we want our first iteration to be, these are the categories we're going with?
I think it depends on if there's, sorry, go ahead, TC.
I was just going to say, it sounds like if we're confident that there's 3 or 4 that are, then we could probably start doing something there and tie it into what forms might look like and the portal and all these other things. Just then it's just an add-on as we confirm the rest of the not 4.
So
similar thought, like if it's an atomic change with no dependency, where we're not messing up reports and we're not breaking anything and we're only making it better, then let's do it now.
Yeah, I mean, I would actually be interested in seeing like how it would actually work for, you know, like an IC, right? Where, okay, which ones would I have access to and everyone could view by default? And then, you know, how would it look like if I'm assigned to specific areas, right? So I think it would be really nice to start kind of looking at the sandbox just to see how does, you know, what's the best way, which views do we want for everyone and which views would be assigned to people and how would that look like for an individual? And I'd be more than happy to work with you, Jason, or, you know, even grab, you know, 1 or 2 other team members to kind of just take a look at how that would be. But I definitely think it would be good to kind of get a sense of that, which, you know, like you say, we could use generic categories for that, just to get a sense of exactly how it would look like for like a team member, like an IC's view.
Cool. So in that vein, I'll make an issue after this meeting to set up something very basic in the sandbox, and I'll work with Cynthia. And if you can pull a couple other volunteers to work with us, we'll do a very, very small test in the sandbox. And if we're like, okay, looks like what we kind of want, I'll ping the rest of you in the issue and be like, this is what we're looking at. I'll probably make a video to make it easy to see. And if we're all kind of in agreement, then we'll get that into production as like our first beginning place. Luckily, I think IC wise, I think we have 2 placeholder views in right now, Cynthia. I say that because as administrator, I see all of them. Okay.
There's in production, we have 1 placeholder, but right now, like I know there's a limit to how many shared views we can have.
12.
And I think it's actually, I don't know. There's a limit to shared views for the whole, for like everyone. And then is it a different limit for shared views for specific?
It's not
groups?
that there's a limit to the number of views. There's a limit to the number you will see on the top part of the views.
Right.
And you only see 12, which is kind of a joke because I think my assigned views counts as one of them.
So it's really 11.
Yeah, it's 11 because we could kill the my assigned views, but it's like, or my assigned tickets, but it's like a lot of our stuff is pretty tied to that. And I don't see that going away.
Yeah.
Say you get 11 views that you can see. There can be as many unlimited, or there's unlimited shared group personal. The problem is you only see 11 of what they call the shared views, but a group view is a special shared view that only certain groups can see. So basically on that top part, you will see 12 views, and I think that's it because I don't think y'all see suspended and deleted tickets, right?
We do.
Oh, you do? Okay. Luckily, those do
Yeah.
not count as views.
Okay. Yeah, so that's what I mean. Like, it would be good to like kind of play around in the sandbox, create some views, and you know, assign it to specific users, and we could impersonate them, see what it looks like, and just get a better sense of how it would work for an individual, comparing like, you know, the ones that everyone is going to see, and then like depending on how many areas people are assigned to, at what point does it kind of maybe break down? like it would actually be good to see at what point does it kind of break down for someone, depending on the number of areas they might be assigned to, and that sort of thing. So I definitely think it would be great to kind of get that testing started.
Cool. Because yeah, looking at our current views, and you know, like that you would see as an IC, the like .com accounts, groups, and logins, that view would be dying because it will become an area of focus view. LNR will become an area of focus view. So that's 2 views that get freed up, which tells me in theory, y'all could be in 3 different areas of focus at once before things will break. At the 4th, you will not see your 4th area of focus. And that's pending we don't eventually, you know, we don't get to the point where it's like, right now we're coalescing the sauce and self-managed views. It's like, that's going to free up a ton more views. So, but I agree with you of it'd be good to play around to see when does this break, so we can have those day one, we put it into production, say, this is when it breaks. And I mean, I know there's going to be like on the manager side, we'll have to make processes for how long should you be an area of focus? Can you be in there forever? Do we want to make it where you have to rotate after 6 months? Like, there's going to be all kinds of questions we'll need to figure out as a group. But you know, we'll get there once we at least start getting some of the things kind of set up and in place, and be like, now we can kind of start asking those questions, keeping iteration in mind, because we might be like 6 months is fine, and then 6 months later be like, not fine, not cool, we got to extend it, it's too long, you know, who knows what it is. That's the fun of iteration. Nobody knows. But yeah, so I'll make an issue either right after this meeting or tomorrow to get something set up in the sandbox early next week, and then Cynthia, you and whoever you can get to volunteer with you will help me test it in the sandbox. If whoever you have volunteering doesn't have sandbox access, just let me know and I'll make the AR, because I'm the one who provisions it anyway. And I'll just ping the manager.
I have an admin account actually on Sandbox.
Yes, you're one of the few people who does. You were helping me test some high level stuff, and I got tired of having to like upgrade you and downgrade you. So eventually I was like, I'm just giving you admin because I don't want to do this again. But yeah, so I'll get something set up early next week, and Cynthia, you can help me with volunteers. Once we think what we've got in the sandbox is right, I'll make a video, share it with all of us. And if we're all in agreement of, yeah, this looks good, let's figure out how to get it into production, we can. We'll announce to the team of, we're putting this thing in production. It's a trial. You don't have to use it right now. It's us trying to get everything kind of set up. I think once we finally go live with all of this, yes, we're going to have an announcement and processes and handbook pages and all that fun stuff.
Sorry, I missed a little bit there. I had a call from my mum's rest home that I had to take. So some of this might have already been discussed, but I'm just thinking about both messaging and workflows when we kind of get to the end game of this. I know there are some support engineers who will go, well, that's all well and good, but which view am I meant to be looking at? How do I choose? It's kind of that same, you know, I think it's really challenging to ask people to make their own choices about priorities between, do I work in Zendesk or do I work in internal issues? Having work in multiple places is confusing. So I am just thinking about SLAs and managing people focused on various areas and making sure that we are still, I'm assuming, again, this is I'm a little bit slow on this, that we'll still have a view that is, this is the SLA view, this is what's coming up, nothing's categorized in it, and we will have to have a way as managers of allocating people to make sure that we've always got people looking in that view, kind of like the SLA hawk role. I'm assuming that's the intention, and I'm just, I'm slowly trying to slot that in. So yeah.
Yeah,
Checking back on that.
100% still the intention. Like the big like SM with SLA, .com with SLA, maybe one day those get combined, maybe, but we will always have somebody who needs to be on the lookout for that. I'd love to see this process be so efficient and so great that whoever's in charge of doing that is like, I have nothing to do. I long for the day when somebody's like, I'm bored. I'm like, oh, goody. Now we can find interesting things to do. But yeah, I think what we would end up seeing is right now when like an IC is like, I need to grab a ticket for assignment, they go into that global view, you know, like they're regional without assignee view, and they grab one of the tickets and they assign it to themselves. And then the theory is they're working out of my assigned until they need more tickets. The theory with this is instead of going to that global not assigned view, they will have an area of focus view that is you grab out of there because it's your area of focus. We'll have to have somebody who triages them into be like, this is this role, and throws them into the various views to cover the ones Zendesk can't automatically do, because no matter how hard I try, somebody will find an edge case. So I think all it really is instead of having to look at every ticket that's currently in need of somebody and going, oh, I don't know Kubernetes, so I can't help there. And instead will be, I'm specialized in Docker. These are all the Docker tickets. I can knock these out really well. Or maybe I'm not specialized in Docker, but I'm working to get better. So I've talked with my manager and they've agreed I can focus on Docker tickets so I can practice a lot more on these tickets. So I think the area, the kind of the concept there is we'll still have people who have to watch for, you know, all the tickets, make sure none of them breach. We'll still have people needing to triage tickets. But when you get ready to pick up a ticket to work it, it'll instead be something that's more in your purview instead of, rolling the dice on what you're about to grab. And my theory behind all of this, and this is what me and Tom Atkins kind of thought, is we looked at how some people work tickets they know really well. A good example was me and Elasticsearch when I first started at GitLab. It took me less than like 5 minutes to reply to an Elasticsearch ticket. I knew it well. I knew I knew all the subject matter. Whereas somebody who didn't know it would have had to do a lot of research. I could jump in, grab it, reply in 5 minutes, probably resolve it in that one reply because I knew what I was doing, and then go grab another Elasticsearch ticket and get it out of the way. That's kind of the concept we're envisioning here is you'll get to the point where I'm focused in this thing that I know so well I can resolve it relatively quickly, and we'll see tickets getting resolved a lot quicker. So in theory, we'll see less tickets, and we might get to a point where somebody is bored. That's like my lovely long-term optimistic envisioned goal. As we get to like the points we have like on the 25th of December where somebody's like, there's no tickets. That's a great problem to have.
Yeah, so part of the burden will go into managers and ensuring that we're aligned, right, with the number of people that we have in various areas of focus and how that correlates to. So we get the areas of focus defined, we understand what the ticket volume is in each area of focus in each region, and we don't have everybody in Elasticsearch, for example, right? So that'll be key. Right now, everybody's in everything, and for the most part. But this is an effort to kind of refine that, and as Jason was pointing out, make it even faster to get responses out to customers or even solutions. So there's a lot of work to do once the focus areas are defined.
Yeah, and I expect we'll all probably be talking with Ilya and Lee to help us out on the metric side of that, of like, we've got these set up, it's been running for 6 months, everything's going well, and Lee can go, oh man, we're getting a rise in Kubernetes. We should allocate more people into that area of focus. I'd like to see us get to that envisionment. It also will help with like hiring is something I could see benefiting from this of, hey, we looked at the tickets and like 50% of them are about Kubernetes over the last year. We should probably try to focus our hiring on getting someone with more of that kind of experience.
Or our product teams.
Yeah, right. Or like I see all kinds of benefits we can get here from being able to basically point to we're having to allocate 25% of our team to this one category. Let's figure out why. Is it that category is just customers don't understand it, our documentation needs improvement? Is it there's a bunch of bugs happening and we need to really, put some pressure on the engineering team to be like, hey, we'll look at what we're having to allocate because of this. Is it just this is an area of weakness for the team and we should probably focus on hiring someone with that specialization? So I see us being able to get to that kind of area where instead of just saying, well, there's like 100 tickets, we can go, right, but most of those are pretty well covered by their teams. Here's the area of focus that's really suffering. These are all like random long-term thoughts that me and Tom A have kind of talked about in the past.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I see massive advantage. Like I'm kind of already taking this approach, but it's hard to do because we don't have the areas of focus when I'm onboarding new people to go, right, I want you to focus on this type, get really good at it. It means you get used to how we work tickets, have particular workflows, asking questions, and it will make, yeah, even CDPs a whole lot easier as well, because I can actually target people on their learning. So yeah, that's just me thinking out loud. Thank you. It's dropping into place.
Yeah, and just kind of going back a little bit to kind of the from kind of like a more IC perspective, at least longer term, and even like actually even potentially shorter term, like once we actually implement these views, I almost see it as I kind of would hope and see that envision that it would kind of be what Lyle always talks about with the 70-20-10, right? Like that you're going to be tackling about 70% of tickets that you're very familiar with, what Jason was talking about with like, you know, those kind of expertise areas, and, you know, 20% might be areas that you're learning and training up on. And then 10% might be, you know, because you're doing hawk or crew, whatever it is, or, you know, just the queue is hot and, you know, people need more help, that you'll end up with that 10%, which might be totally out of any of those areas, but that you're going to be working a little more focused. And actually, from what I've heard from a lot of ICs, and I'm sure all of you managers have heard this too, is that sometimes we struggle with feeling like we need to know everything, a little bit of literally everything about GitLab, which is really hard to do because it's such a large product. And so it actually, I think, will help ICs in a lot of ways to have a bit more of a focus in what areas, and, you know, you get this mix, but you'll get this mix of tickets that you're really comfortable with and tickets that, you know, you need to at least, you know, kind of look up more and learn more about.
Yeah, I fully agree. And I think a big part of this is like somebody who's ambitious, who's like, I want to learn everything. It's like, great, these are our categories. When you feel you can jump into any one of them and answer a ticket quickly, you know you've known everything. But then the 22nd will roll around and we'll laugh at you because something has changed. I mean, I was that ambitious when I started, and Lyle laughed at me when I'm like, now I'm going to learn everything first. He laughed at me. Now, 2 years later, I understand. I laugh at me too. That was a really ambitious goal that I'll never achieve. But yeah, like I see all kinds of benefits that we get from this specialization. I know I also liked when I started working tickets I knew really well, really quickly, and then being able to spend an hour on a harder ticket so I could really dig into it. But early on when I started, I would have felt really bad spending that hour on every ticket because I would have been like, I don't feel like I'm being productive. I feel like I should be pairing with somebody who will know the answer right then and there, and I can move on with my life. So I do like that 70-20-10 split of here's the 70 you know real well, here's 20 that you're working on learning, so you're kind of there, but you're getting there. And then here's the 10 that's just like, my brain hurts, but that's a good kind of struggle so you can grow. That's why I'm glad you're here, Cynthia. It's good to have an IC point of view as well on this. Because me and Tom are like, look at all these amazing big level things we can do. And it's like, right, but this benefits more than just the bottom, you know, the profit margin or whatever it is, the profit margin. Cool. So it sounds like we all see benefit in this. We all think it's going in a good direction. Is there anything you want to see come out of this that maybe as like a long-term iteration, something like we haven't talked about, but you're like, it would be cool if this could also happen at some point in the future?
pipe dream. I'd love all our work to be in one place. So if there was some way that we could have our internal issues being in another view in Zendesk, not necessarily copy, but just so that people can stay in one tool to do their work and prioritize, that'd be amazing. Pipe dream.
Not as much as you think. Me and Wei Ming are already talking about that. I think the one he came to me with was about account, like, I know security was talking about like an account deletion thing that works in Zendesk. And my big pushback was, right, but what access does it want to Zendesk? And that was where they were kind of like, we don't know. And I'm like, I can't say yes to that answer because the people like security legal will tell me no if I come to them with, I don't know what access it wants. Let's just grant it. But yeah, I do like, and part of my vision of like getting areas of focus and coalescing is we're not having to jump around to 50 different areas to grab tickets, to do work. It kind of helps us get into one area. Don't be wrong, we'll always be doing some work out of GitLab because I'm not going to figure out how to do documentation updates through Zendesk. At a certain point, it's like, no, go use gitlab.com. It is the company we work for after all. But yeah, I do think that that's a good kind of envisionment to have here, especially because I know like L&R is a big example of there's a lot of internal issues. I don't fully understand them, but it would be good to have them instead become tickets.
I think I think, I'm not sure pipe dream's the right term, but I think you'll always be either in issues or Zendesk. That will be kind of the long term, right? Because one, engineering is not going to work on anything outside of GitLab. So as we work into issues and defects or however we're going to qualify those are going to be in GitLab. And right, our support engineers are going to need to interact and hopefully even fix some of these and all that type of stuff. So, and obviously, since it is what we're supporting, they should be using it to some extent, right? So, so I think if we can get to those two and avoid going to wherever, Zora, Salesforce, these other things to do customer work, that I think would be a great end result of any work we do. So all the automations, all the mechanizers, all the various tools and things that are put together should keep us in Zendesk, except when we come to defects with the customer or the product or handbook or docs or whatever.
Yeah, my thought on, so I was just going to say, my thought with internal issues is the internal issues that are customer work. I totally agree we'll still work in GitLab. It would be really wrong if we didn't, but I'm meaning incoming work. And currently we have incoming work that we then have to go to GitLab or wherever else to work on, which is fine. But in terms of where we receive the piece of work that has an SLA that we need to deliver to or has a implication of an SLA, I'd love to see those all in the same tool set. And I want to kind of remove the word Zendesk from that because I don't want to suggest that that's our forever thing, but that our incoming work is all in one place, that when a person's working queues, working incoming work, it's all in one tool set.
Yeah, and I agree with Tom. I don't think it's a pipe dream. I think that's something we very well can get to. I think getting everything organized like we're doing with like these categories helps a lot with that, because then it starts letting us see, right, so where are we straying from our core categories? Why are we straying? And a lot of that can be, why is this marked other? Oh, because it's this GitLab issue that we had to work over here for the customer. I'm like, right, so we need to figure out that edge case so we can get it into Zendesk. But yeah, I do like that idea, and I'll agree with Tom. I don't think it's a pipe dream. I think we can very well get there. It can be crazy ideas. I'm just curious if y'all have any long-term things you've thought of that would be cool. All right. It's okay to have none.
I think just kind of to follow up a little bit on what Jane and Tom were talking about. I think I think you've done a lot of great work around actually doing, helping kind of get everything into at least Zendesk. So especially with the user lookup and, the SaaS ticket helper app, I think building on those things and kind of potentially integrating more whether it's those same systems or integrating more systems, like, you know, Tom mentioned Zuora, that would be another one that would be really great to be able to integrate. Could we do a Zuora subscription lookup, right? And have it right, and it just be read-only access, right? But most of us don't have access to Zuora, can't help in that way, right? If an L&R ticket gets to the point where we would want to check Zuora, we don't even have read access. So, you know, integrating more of those kind of into Zendesk, potentially integrating internal requests, even just to, you know, like Jane says, see them incoming instead of having them as notifications in Slack. And I mean, we could keep both, but, you know, like even seeing, oh, there's an issue, it has this due date, you know, and if you click on it, it would take you maybe to GitLab, right? But just being able to see that, oh, these issues exist. You know, that's like all of these things where we're just kind of, you've actually done a really great job, I think, in integrating a lot of this and just kind of continuing to move in that direction, I think would really help. Because I do think having that GitLab, even though like I have an admin account, even though I have access to chat ops and all these other tools, to have it right in Zendesk and be able to see, oh, this person is part of this group and this group has this paid plan, has been like such a time saver. I can't even tell you how much of a time saver. There's a reason why I nominated you for that discretionary bonus. It has just been absolutely amazing to see that. And for other people, and I've seen so many other ICs just kind of make use of it. And again, like the efficiency around having everything in Zendesk has actually been, yeah, it's definitely been a big thing. And I do agree with Jane that I think it would be great. I also think that, yeah, I think if we just keep moving in that direction, I don't think it's a pipe dream either, actually. I think we could do it.
Awesome. Yeah, and that's like I'm all game to, if this is a Zendesk can't do it, we'd have to develop our own. Yeah, I'm very willing to do that. See all the apps we've built, see some of the stuff I'm building now. It's like, yeah, I'm willing to enhance Zendesk when it can't do what we need it to. I'm actually figuring out how to do a custom notification system into Zendesk right now. And when I'm done, I might even make a blog post because it really bothers me that this was a thing Zendesk can technically do, but was not documented anywhere. But like I'm always 100% game, even if it's just a thing on the sidebar that says, hey, by the way, this issue was just opened in this project or whatever, even if it's as simple as that. Yeah, I'm trying to work to figure stuff like that out because I'd like us, like, at least in my experience as working in support as manager and as engineer, not just at GitLab, but at many companies, the most annoying thing is having to open 50 tabs to do one ticket. I didn't like doing it. It slowed me down. Inevitably, you forget to close tabs and Chrome crashes, and then you're really sad because you've lost who knows how much work. So like, I like the, like, I like being able to stay in Zendesk when I have to look at something of like, oh yeah, this user, okay, they're right here, this group, cool. I didn't have to go run curl commands or look in the GitLab API or, yeah. So I think we can get to where everything's kind of sort of in Zendesk as much as possible. Like Tom said, we'll always be working with GitLab too, because surprise, we work at GitLab. But I do think figuring out a way to make GitLab and Zendesk work well together is a good thing to do. Maybe even to the point that it'll end up becoming a selling point for Zendesk is look how well we work with GitLab.
Cool. Anything else?
Cynthia's typing something. Do you want to voice what you're typing, Cynthia?
I just realized we've obviously had a lot of really good ideas, even just from, you know, your prompting of like, here are all the things we want to see and do, right? And some of it's going to be potentially a little out of scope of the working group itself, and beyond the, you know, time frame or, you know, end goals for that. But I'm wondering, like, what is the best place to write all this down, like to keep a list of these are the things we still want to do. And again, we could, categorize it a little bit to say these are within scope of the work group, and these are some other ideas that we want to potentially implement in the future, but is out of scope of the group.
So I would say, honestly, the out of scope things would be good to be putting issues into GitLab for. Support ops has a lot of labels I've added. We even have one that's called backlog, which I know has a huge connotation to it, but for support ops, it means it's an envisionment that we can't do right now, but we're going to look back on. Support ops has a rule of thumb has a standard process, trying to use the right terms, standard process to at least one toward the end of the month, gather everything that's marked backlog, look at it and see if we can move it out of backlog. We have goals of never having things backlogged. So, but beyond that, like support team meta is a good thing to make them in of like, we have this, we want to do this thing. What do y'all think? Does anybody have ideas? Sometimes there are people like in our support org or other people who lurk on our issue board, because I've definitely seen engineers do that who are like, hey, yeah, I think you could do it this way. Could I work on making an app for that? Like Catalan's working on an uploader app. And he was like, yeah, it's just something I wanted to do. I'm like, cool, I enable you to do it. If you get blocked, let me know. So I would say if it's out of scope for this work group, make issues in at least support team meta or support ops project, either way. If it's in the scope, I would say we put it in our doc here and put it maybe under like that top part of like task check-in or questions or, things like that, where it's like, right, let's bring that up so we make sure, or even those can become issues that we assign to ourselves or something. Because I can, like, especially in support ops land, I can promise you, it's, if you're like, why hasn't this thing been implemented? It's probably because we've never thought of it. Like there's a lot of things. Somebody's like, could we do this? I'm like, yes, really easily. Why hasn't it been done?
Jason, I think it might be worthwhile to talk about, if not already there, because I think you've got some plans to have the support ops folks kind of share with the support engineers and shadow and that type of thing. If there was a triage process for support ops, if you've got a triage process where, maybe it's the issue's prefaced with, new idea or whatever, or that we keep these things into the support ops. And then as we need to go out and get other ideas, suggestions, or, to that specific issue, we can kind of coordinate that with the support folk. I think it would be great to catch these kinds of ideas in the support ops so that we can, one, triage them for work that may already be underway, two, prioritize them for work that's not underway, and three, then kind of control, what we work on in support ops going forward. So.
Yeah, for sure. We do have a triage process. If an issue is made in the support ops project and it's not tagged, it'll get a triage label automatically. And then we have somebody in ops whose specialty is triage, or not yet, but that's going to happen. But we triage those to give them labels and then figure out how we can work them and all that fun stuff.
Okay, so that sounds like it might be the process.
Yeah, so the best process, if you're like really not sure of like, where would this even go? Just put it in the ops project. It's supposed to be a catch-all. We have a triage process in ops for it. We'll get it placed where it needs to be, or it gets the support ops category other tag, which is my least favorite tag I've used 8 times today. All for issues I made, by the way, which makes me sad. But yeah, that's kind of a good starter process for that. And support ops is always willing to be like, this seems contentious. Maybe we should talk about it in support team meta because somebody might get upset about this. Or we'll blaze ahead and think something's not contentious and find out it is later, which has happened at least 3 times now. But yeah, we'll kind of, I think that's a good starter place. The ops team we're restarting the support engineer audit or support engineer shadowing program in February. So if that's something you're very interested in, talk with your manager, because I basically tell the ops team, hey, go talk to the managers to get volunteers if you can't find a volunteer. It doesn't have to be the official audit either. It can literally be, I want to pair with support ops. Cool. Just ping a local support ops, your regional support ops person, and ask if you can do a coffee chat or whatever and talk about ideas. We're always willing to do that because that's proactive and we love being proactive. See, Cynthia posted an issue. Oh, you just made this. I was like, how old is it? So you just made it. I was about to get scared. I'm like, how old is this thing that you've asked for?
I literally like wrote a single line sentence issue for you.
Cool. But yeah, like literally that's all you have to do in the ops project. What you just did, we'll triage it. We'll get the labels on it. If we need more info, we'll talk to you and be like, hey, what's going on with this? I don't quite understand. And for something like Zora, the first question I'm going to be is, so who do I go talk to get an API token so I can actually start building that? But, you know, stuff like that where it's like, I don't even know what this thing is. Why don't you, let's do a coffee chat so you can show me what it is. Like ops is always willing to do that. And we don't need super descriptive issues to at least start with triage. Especially since we're all tired at some point in the day and we understand we don't want to type up a book to ask for a feature. Especially not people who spend most of the day typing books into tickets. And like, feel free to share that idea amongst the team as well. I try to express to people of always come to ops if you have a question, always come to us if you have an idea. We're 100% willing. I also acknowledge that I sometimes look like I'm angry and that may intimidate people. I've gotten that feedback. I'm not, that's just how I look. I'm sorry. But yeah, for sure. If we have ideas, if we have thoughts, even if you're like, weird idea, what if we could do something like this? Yeah, we want to hear your weird ideas. Matter of fact, at least 2 of the apps that exist now were weird ideas. Cool.
It's completely serious, that comment, by the way, just in case it reads as though, is she being sarcastic? No, I'm being completely serious. I don't understand how anyone would think you look angry. I just want to affirm that.
I've gotten that feedback in my life many times, and I'm like, I don't think I'm angry. I'm actually a pretty jovial person. Most of the time, I'm pretty friendly. Don't get me wrong, at like around 4 a.m. when I wake up and haven't had coffee, bad time to talk to me, but even then, about 5 minutes, and I'll put on my normal face of being me.
I think Texans just get a generally bad rep coming out the gate. So
It's
guilt by association.
It's not our fault that we, have to take our 6-shooters on the horseback to the oil fields while wearing our 10-gallon hats. Sorry, 15-gallon, because everything's bigger in Texas.
Your spurs are rattling.
Since you mentioned that anything in scope we should have at the top of the doc, I did just add some of the things that we just talked about today in the task list. And partially I put them here because I think these are things we should address. As we create issues for them, then we can link them to issues. But some of these, I think we probably want to address later. We may or may not want to create the issue right now until we have a better idea of what we actually want to do with them. But I wanted to make sure that we kind of just at least have a list of, these are the things we still will need to address.
Oh yeah, and like the stuff at the very top of that doc, the idea is that's static stuff, so we don't have to search for it. So stuff that we want to keep like up there, that it's like the task list Cynthia just put there, or like this is the work group page that I forget where it's located all the time and have to Google at least 20 times a week. But yeah, stuff like that, definitely top of the page static stuff. So it's stuff we see every time we kind of look at the doc and be like, oh yeah, that's a thing that needs to be on the forefront of our minds. Cool, we're just about at time, or we're over time. I'm bad at that. Did I end this at 50? No, okay. We're just about out of time. Any last minute thoughts? Anything you want to talk about? Cool. I'll take that as a no. Remember to encourage everyone you see in support to fill out that survey. I'll probably make another post about it tomorrow in the team chat and put something in the support we can review if it's not there already, reminding people, especially now that the form's fixed and doesn't require you to fill out a second option. But definitely encourage everyone you see to be filling that out because we really want that data. We want to be sure our categories are good amongst the vast majority of the team.
Just very quickly, Jason, you might want to do it today because it's already Friday in APAC.
I'm going to do a little Friday reminder to Team APAC, and I'm going to ping them.
I
and
just
they can get
meant in
grumpy with me if
Slack.
they want.
Yeah.
I'll do that one in Slack for Team APAC. I've got another thing I want to remind them about. So I've just literally copied the URL for the form. So cheers.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, I forgot that it's Thursday, which is the third time today. I didn't take the trash out this morning. Well, cool. Well, then I'll let y'all go. Good seeing all of y'all. I think this was really productive. I'm happy with the way this is going. I'm excited. I think it's going to be an exciting time when we get all this finally live and ready and up and, going. Cool. Bye, all. Have a good rest of your week, good weekend, and all that fun stuff.